The queen married a human then witnessed power beyond royal myths. The crystal throne had stood for 10,000 years. And Queen Seraphiel Velcora was the youngest ruler to ever sit upon it. She was tall and silver-skinned like all Velanthari, with eyes that glowed soft violet in the dim light of the throne room. Her people had ruled 12 star systems for longer than most species had possessed fire. They were ancient and proud, blessed with psionic gifts that let them touch minds and bend light itself. But Seraphiel felt no pride on this day, only grief and cold fury. Her mother had been assassinated 3 months ago. The Burning Pact, a faction of nobles who believed the royal bloodline had grown weak, had sent a poison that killed the old queen in her sleep. Seraphiel had watched her mother fade away, unable to save her. Now, she sat on the throne, and her advisors surrounded her with grave faces. "Your Majesty," said High Counselor Thyron, an ancient Velanthari whose silver skin had faded to pale gray, "we must discuss the alliance." Seraphiel knew what he meant. The Terran Confederacy, that young and strange nation of humans, had offered military support against the Burning Pact. In exchange, they wanted legitimacy in the galactic community. They wanted a political marriage. "You wish me to marry a human," Seraphiel said, and her voice was flat. "Commander Marcus Chun is a respected figure among his people," Thyron replied. "He is a soldier and a diplomat, decorated in 3 conflicts. The marriage would bind our nations together." "Humans live barely a century," another advisor snapped. "They have no psionic ability. They are children playing at civilization." Seraphiel raised her hand, and the room fell silent. "The Burning Pact has ships and soldiers," she said. "I have a wounded empire and enemies in my own court. If the humans offer strength, I will consider their price." And so it was decided. Commander Marcus Chun arrived on a Terran shuttle 1 month later. Seraphiel watched from her balcony as he stepped onto Velanthari soil for the first time. He was shorter than her people, with brown skin and dark hair cut close to his head. He wore a simple military uniform, no medals or ribbons despite his reputation. When he looked up at the palace, he did not seem impressed or intimidated. He seemed curious. The court gathered to receive him, and Seraphiel studied their faces. Most showed contempt, barely hidden behind polite masks. A few showed open disgust. Lord Vethan, her uncle, stood near the back with cold eyes and a colder smile. Marcus walked through them all without flinching. When he reached the throne, he bowed, not too deep, not too shallow. It was the bow of an equal, not a servant. "Queen Seraphiel," he said, and his voice was calm and warm. "Thank you for this honor. I hope to be worthy of your trust." "You speak our language well," Seraphiel observed. "I studied for 6 months," Marcus replied. "Your grammar is difficult, but your poetry is beautiful. I particularly enjoyed the 7th meditation of Calith." A ripple of surprise passed through the court. The 7th meditation was an obscure philosophical text, rarely read even by scholars. "You have done your research," Seraphiel said. "I wish to understand your people," Marcus answered. "How else can I serve as a bridge between our worlds?" That night, Seraphiel spoke with him privately in the garden beneath the 3 moons. The flowers glowed soft blue in the darkness, and the air smelled of honey and starlight. "You are not what I expected," she admitted. "What did you expect?" Marcus asked. "A soldier, rough and simple." Marcus smiled, and his teeth were white and even. "I am a soldier, but war taught me that strength without understanding is just violence. I learned to listen before I learned to fight." "Why did you accept this arrangement?" Seraphiel asked. "You leave your home, your people. You marry a stranger of another species. What do you gain?" Marcus looked up at the moons. "My people are young in this galaxy. Everyone sees us as primitive, as children. But we have so much to offer, So much to learn. This marriage gives us a chance to prove ourselves. And personally, he met her eyes then, and she saw something she did not expect: genuine kindness. Personally, I have spent my life in war. I have seen enough death for 10 lifetimes. Perhaps this is my chance to build something instead of destroying it. Seraphile did not know what to say, so she said nothing. The wedding was held in the Grand Temple, beneath crystal spires that sang with psychic energy. Seraphile wore the traditional silver gown of Voluntary queens, and Marcus wore Terran formal dress, simple black and white that seemed almost humble beside her radiance. The ceremony was ancient and complex, binding them in law and in the sight of the ancestors. When it was done, they stood together before the gathered nobles, and Seraphile announced their union to the empire. The feast that followed was grand and cold. Nobles approached to offer congratulations that felt like insults. Marcus accepted each one with the same calm smile, never rising to their bait. Then the emissary arrived. He came from the Burning Pact, dressed in the red and black of their faction. The guards moved to stop him, but he raised his hands in the gesture of diplomatic immunity. "I bring a message for the queen and her new pet," he announced, and his voice carried through the silent hall. Marcus did not react to the insult. He simply watched. "The Burning Pact does not recognize this union," the emissary continued. "The Half-Blood throne will fall within the cycle. Enjoy your celebration, Your Majesty. It will be your last." He turned and walked away before the guards could seize him. The hall erupted in chaos, nobles shouting, advisors demanding action, guards rushing to secure the exits. But Seraphile watched only Marcus. His expression had not changed. His smile remained pleasant and mild, but his eyes had shifted just for a moment. They had become hard and cold, like ice forming over deep water. She saw something in that gaze that made her ancient blood run cold. Then the moment passed, and he was simply Marcus again, the calm and curious human who read poetry and asked too many questions. "Wow," he said softly. "It seems we have work to do." Seraphile realized then that she understood nothing about the man she had married. And for the first time in her reign, she wondered if perhaps her enemies had made a terrible mistake. The queen married a human, then witnessed power beyond royal myths. 3 months passed after the wedding, and the court settled into an uneasy rhythm. Queen Seraphile ruled from the crystal throne, managing her empire with careful precision. She fought political battles against the Burning Pact's allies, secured trade agreements with neutral worlds, and strengthened her military forces. Every day brought new challenges, and she faced them all with the cold grace of Voluntary royalty. And through it all, Marcus watched. He attended every council meeting, sitting quietly in the corner, while generals argued strategy and ministers debated policy. He walked the palace gardens at dawn, speaking with servants and groundskeepers. He visited the archives and read ancient texts for hours at a time. He trained with the royal guard, learning their fighting styles with patient dedication. The court dismissed him as harmless, a pet human. They whispered, kept for political convenience. He posed no threat, they believed. He had no power, no influence, no understanding of their ancient ways. Seraphile was not so certain. One evening, she summoned him to her private chambers. He arrived promptly, still wearing the simple clothes he preferred over voluntary finery. "Sit," she commanded, and he did. "I have a question for you." "I am honored to serve, Your Majesty." "There is a dispute at our border," Seraphile said. "Two worlds claim the same asteroid belt. Both have valid historical claims. Both threaten war if we rule against them. My advisors are divided. What would you do?" Marcus was silent for a moment, his dark eyes thoughtful. "The asteroid belt contains rare minerals, yes?" he asked. "It does." "And both worlds need those minerals for their economies?" "Yes, Then give the belt to neither, Marcus said. Create a joint administration. Let both worlds share the mining rights equally, with a Valanthari overseer to prevent conflicts. Neither side wins completely, but neither side loses completely. The anger fades because both feel they gained something. Seraphile stared at him. Her advisors had argued for weeks without reaching this conclusion. You have thought about this before, she said. I listened during the council meetings, Marcus replied. Your advisors focus on who deserves the belt. But the question is not about deserving, it is about preventing war. Sometimes the fair solution is not the right solution. Where did you learn such thinking? Marcus smiled, but there was something sad in his expression. Humans have fought many wars, Your Majesty. We have learned that compromise, even imperfect compromise, is better than bloodshed. Over the following weeks, Seraphile began to rely on Marcus more and more. His insights were sharp and practical, free from the political games that clouded her advisors' judgment. He saw patterns they missed and asked questions they were too proud to consider. She also learned more about human history, and it horrified her. Your people had 2 global wars in less than 50 years. She asked one night, unable to hide her shock. Yes, Marcus said quietly. Millions died. Cities were burned to ash. We created weapons that could destroy entire nations in moments. How did your species survive such madness? We almost did not, Marcus admitted. But we learned. We built systems to prevent it from happening again. We failed sometimes, but we kept trying. That is what humans do. We make terrible mistakes, and then we refuse to let those mistakes define us. Seraphile did not understand. The Valanthari had known peace for thousands of years, their conflicts small and contained. They could not imagine the scale of human violence. But she was beginning to understand human resilience. One day, a Valanthari lord named Kesseth approached Marcus in the Great Hall. Kesseth was tall and arrogant, with the pale silver skin of ancient nobility. He looked down at the human with open contempt. So this is the queen's pet, Kesseth said loudly, ensuring the whole court could hear. Tell me, human, do your people always let their females choose their mates? Or are you simply too weak to claim one yourself? The court fell silent. Such an insult demanded a response. Marcus simply smiled. Lord Kesseth, I have heard you are a master of strategy games. I would be honored if you would teach me. Perhaps we could play a match? Kesseth's eyes narrowed. You wish to be humiliated? I wish to learn. They sat at the game board, and the court gathered to watch. The game was called Voice Dance, a complex contest of psionically linked pieces that responded to the player's mental commands. Humans could not use such pieces effectively. Their minds lacked the necessary connections. So Marcus played with physical tokens, moving them by hand while Kesseth commanded his pieces with thought alone. The game lasted 3 hours. In the end, Kesseth won barely. He had expected to crush the human in minutes, but Marcus had forced him to fight for every position. The Lord's face was tight with frustration as he claimed his hollow victory. Seraphile watched from her throne, and she noticed something strange. In the final moves, Marcus had made errors, small mistakes that gave Kesseth the advantage. But those errors had come right after Marcus had been winning. He had lost on purpose. Later, she confronted him in private. You could have won that game, she said. Why did you surrender victory? Marcus met her eyes calmly. Your enemies are watching, Your Majesty. If they see me as a threat, they will act against me and against you. But if they see me as harmless, as a curiosity, they will ignore me. And ignored people can learn many things. You are hiding yourself. I am protecting us both. Seraphile sat heavily in her chair. My spies have brought me dark news. The Burning Pact has agents inside this palace. They may have turned my own cousin against me. I know, Marcus said. You know? The servants talk to me, he explained. They see things the nobles miss. I have been gathering information quietly. Why did you not tell me? Because I did not have proof, only suspicions. I did not want to alarm you without certainty. But I believe the threat is real, and it will strike soon. Sir Raphael looked at this strange human, this calm and patient man who hid oceans behind his mild eyes. I do not know if I can trust you, she admitted. Then trust my actions, Marcus replied. I have sworn to protect you, and I will. When the burning pack comes, I will be ready. She wanted to ask how one human could stand against an ancient conspiracy of psionic nobles. But something in his voice stopped her. He spoke not with arrogance, but with the quiet certainty of a man who had faced death many times and survived. Perhaps, she thought, there was more to humanity than the galaxy understood. Perhaps there was more to this human than anyone could imagine. The Queen married a human, then witnessed power beyond royal myths. Diplomatic summit was held on a neutral moon called Tizera, a barren rock transformed into a meeting place for the galaxy's great powers. Queen Sir Raphael arrived with her royal entourage, and Marcus walked beside her as her consort. They entered the grand hall together, surrounded by aliens of a dozen different species. The Kreth were there, massive warriors with armored hides and tusked faces. The Valori attended, delicate beings of light and song. The consortium sent their mechanical ambassadors, and the syndicate brought their merchant princes. Every major power in the sector had gathered to discuss trade, borders, and the growing threat of pirates in the outer systems. And they all stared at the human. So the rumors are true, rumbled Warlord Dex, the Kreth commander. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his gray hide scarred from countless battles. The Velantari queen has taken a pet from the prey species. His warriors laughed, a harsh sound like stones grinding together. Marcus simply smiled. Warlord Dex, I have heard stories of your victory at Demon's Reach. The tactical flexibility you showed was remarkable. Dex blinked his 4 eyes in surprise. You know of Demon's Reach? I studied your campaigns. Your use of terrain was masterful. The warlord grunted, uncertain whether to be flattered or insulted. He chose to ignore the human and turned away. The summit proceeded through its first day of negotiations. Sir Raphael argued for trade protections, while the consortium demanded open markets. The Kreth wanted military access to neutral space, and the Valori sought cultural preservation agreements. It was tedious work, made slower by ancient rivalries and personal grudges. Then disaster struck. A messenger burst into the hall, her face pale with terror. Extremists have breached the lower levels, she gasped. They have taken hostages, ambassadors, and staff from multiple delegations. They demand the release of political prisoners, or they will kill everyone. Chaos erupted. Delegates shouted and guards drew weapons. The summit security chief stepped forward, a stern Valanthari named Commander Ithril. The hostage-takers number approximately 20, Ithril reported. They are well armed and have deployed biological weapons. If we storm their position, they will release a nerve agent that will kill the hostages instantly. Then negotiate, demanded one of the ambassadors. They refuse negotiation. They say they will begin executing hostages in 1 hour. The great powers of the galaxy, with all their fleets and armies, stood helpless. A frontal assault would kill the hostages. Negotiation had failed. There seemed to be no solution. Marcus stepped forward. Commander Ithril, do you have layout plans for the lower levels? Ithril looked at him with confusion. Why does the Queen's consort wish to know? Because I can get the hostages out. Silence fell over the hall. Warlord Dex laughed again, but this time without humor. 1 human against 20 armed extremists? You are either mad or suicidal. Neither, Marcus said calmly. I am trained for exactly this situation. Sir Raphael grabbed his arm. Marcus, this is not your burden to bear. Let the professionals handle this. The professionals are afraid, Your Majesty. And they have reason to be. Their methods will fail. But I know methods, they do not. She searched his face for doubt or fear and found neither. There was only that same quiet certainty she had seen before. You could die, she whispered. I have been close to death before. We are old friends. Against all judgment, against all wisdom, she gave him permission. Commander Ithro provided the layout maps, and Marcus studied them for exactly 4 minutes. Then he removed his formal jacket, took a simple knife from a guard, and disappeared into the ventilation system. 40 minutes passed. The delegates waited in tense silence. Sir Raphael stood motionless, her violet eyes fixed on the entrance to the lower levels. She had never felt so helpless, so afraid. She had sent her husband into certain death, and she could do nothing but wait. Then Marcus emerged. He walked slowly, favoring his left side. His shirt was torn and stained with blood, some of it his own, some belonging to others. His right shoulder hung at a wrong angle, clearly dislocated. A deep cut ran across his face from temple to jaw. Behind him came the hostages, alive and unharmed. They stumbled into the hall with shocked expressions, unable to believe their survival. The extremists have been neutralized, Marcus said, and his voice was steady despite his wounds. The biological weapons have been secured. Someone should probably collect them. No one moved. No one spoke. Warlord Dex finally broke the silence. How many were there? 12 remained when I reached them. And you killed them all? Alone? Without weapons? Marcus lifted the bloody knife. I had this. And the ventilation system has many sharp edges. The warlord stared at him with something that looked almost like fear. What are you? Marcus blinked, and for a moment his mask slipped. Sir Raphael saw exhaustion behind his eyes, and pain, and something darker, something that had seen too much death and carried its weight without complaint. Then he smiled, and the mask returned. I am tired. Is there food at this summit? I could really use something to eat. Medical teams rushed forward to treat his wounds. They discovered 3 broken ribs, the dislocated shoulder, multiple cuts and bruises, and early signs of shock from blood loss. The voluntary doctors were amazed that he was still standing. Marcus simply asked for something to drink. That night, after the summit was suspended and the delegates returned to their ships, Sir Raphael sat in her chambers and watched the security recordings. She saw Marcus move through the corridors like a ghost. He was silent and patient, waiting in shadows until the perfect moment. When he struck, it was fast and brutal. No wasted movement, no hesitation. He killed with the efficiency of a machine and the creativity of a predator. One extremist fell to a broken neck. Another died when Marcus turned his own weapon against him. A third was strangled with a piece of torn cloth. Each kill was different, adapted to the situation, executed flawlessly. This was not a diplomat. This was not a politician playing at war. This was something her people had no word for, a weapon shaped like a man, forged in conflicts humanity had never shared with the galaxy. She searched the Terran military archives and found the term, Special Operations. The files were heavily restricted, most of the information deleted or hidden. But she found enough to understand. Humans had created soldiers specifically for impossible missions. They selected the most capable individuals and trained them beyond normal limits. They taught them to survive alone, to fight against overwhelming odds, to complete objectives that conventional forces could not achieve. Marcus was such a soldier, a relic of humanity's violent past, hidden behind a gentle smile. Sir Raphael closed the files and sat in darkness for a long time. She had married a monster, she realized. But he was her monster, and he had saved lives that her empire could not save. Perhaps that was what humanity truly was, monsters who chose to protect instead of destroy. Perhaps that was the power the galaxy had failed to understand. The Queen married a human, then witnessed power beyond royal myths 1 year after the wedding. The Burning Pact made their move. It began at midnight, when the 3 moons aligned in the configuration called the Dark Crossing. Sir Raphael woke to the sound of explosions and the screams of dying guards. The palace shook as ancient walls crumbled under weapons fire. She reached for her communicator, but the device was dead-jammed by psionic disruptors that filled the air with static. She was alone and cut off from her forces. The door burst open, and Marcus rushed in. His face was grim, and he carried a Valentari blade taken from a fallen guard. "They have turned the palace security against us," he said quickly. "Lord Vethan leads the assault. We must reach the throne room. It has the strongest defenses." They ran through corridors filled with smoke and chaos. Loyal guards fought traitors in desperate combat, their psionic blades flashing in the darkness. Bodies lay everywhere, silver blood pooling on ancient floors. Marcus led the way, cutting through enemies with terrifying precision. He seemed to know where each attacker would come from, dodging strikes before they landed and striking back without mercy. Sir Raphael followed, using her psionic powers to shield them from ranged attacks. They reached the throne room and sealed the massive doors behind them. But the safety was temporary already. The Burning Pact soldiers were cutting through the barriers with plasma torches. "Help will come," Sir Raphael said, trying to believe her own words. "My loyal forces will rally." "They are scattered and leaderless," Marcus replied. "The coup was perfectly planned. It will take hours for them to organize a counterattack. Then we will hold for hours." The doors exploded inward. Lord Vethan strode through the smoke, resplendent in the crimson armor of the Burning Pact. Behind him came 12 elite warriors, each one a master of psionic combat. They moved with the fluid grace of predators, their minds joined in a battle link that made them nearly unstoppable. "Niece," Vethan said, and his voice dripped with contempt. "Your reign ends tonight. The throne will return to those who deserve it." "You murdered my mother," Sir Raphael said, her voice cold as ice. "You will not take her crown. I did what was necessary. Your bloodline has grown weak, diluted by generations of peace. And now you have further disgraced yourself by wedding this human animal." He gestured at Marcus with disgust. "Step aside, creature. This is not your fight." Marcus did not move. He stood between Sir Raphael and the warriors, holding his borrowed blade with both hands. "With respect, Lord Vethan, I must decline. I swore an oath to protect my wife. I intend to keep it." Vethan laughed. "One human against 12 of our finest warriors. You will die in the first breath." "Perhaps," Marcus said calmly, "but I will make you work for it." The battle that followed would become legend. The first warrior attacked with blinding speed, his psionic blade singing through the air. Marcus ducked beneath the strike and drove his own blade into the warrior's throat. The Valentari fell, his surprise frozen on his face. The others rushed forward as one, their battle link coordinating their movements perfectly. They attacked from all angles, expecting to overwhelm the lone human in moments. They were wrong. Marcus moved like nothing Sir Raphael had ever seen. He was not faster than the Valentari. They were quicker, stronger, blessed with abilities he could never match. But he predicted their attacks, reading their body language and positioning with inhuman accuracy. Where they expected him to be, he was not. Where they committed their strength, he had already shifted. He used their numbers against them, positioning himself so they blocked each other's strikes. He exploited their battle link, which made them coordinate but also made them predictable. He targeted joints and pressure points, disabling warriors with precise blows instead of wasting energy on killing strikes. Minutes passed like hours. Marcus took wounds across his arm, a blade scoring his ribs, a strike that fractured his collarbone. Each injury slowed him, weakened him, but he kept fighting with a determination that defied reason. 6 warriors lay dead or disabled. Marcus stood among them, covered in blood both silver and red, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The remaining warriors hesitated. They had trained their entire lives for combat. They possessed gifts this human could never understand. And yet he had cut through them like a storm through leaves. What manner of creature is this? One whispered. He is human, Ethan snarled. Nothing more than meat and determination. Kill him. They attacked again, and Marcus fought on. Seraphile tried to help, throwing psionic strikes at the warriors, but the disruptors weakened her powers to nearly nothing. She could only watch as her husband fought an impossible battle. 2 more warriors fell. Then another. Marcus was barely standing now, his movements slowing as blood loss took its toll. One of his arms hung useless at his side. His face was a mask of pain and exhaustion. But his eyes were still sharp, still calculating, still absolutely refusing to surrender. The last 3 warriors circled him carefully. They had learned to respect this human learned through the deaths of their brothers. Enough, Ethan commanded. He stepped forward, drawing his own blade, an ancient weapon that had belonged to kings. I will finish this myself. He attacked with the full power of his psionic gifts, his blade wreathed in deadly energy. Marcus tried to block, but Ethan was too fast, too strong. The ancient blade shattered Marcus's weapon and drove deep into his shoulder. Marcus fell to his knees. Ethan stood over him, victory in his eyes. Did you truly think you could stand against us, human? You are nothing, a brief spark in the darkness, easily extinguished. Marcus looked up at him, and despite everything, despite the pain, the wounds, the certainty of death, he smiled. I only needed to last until reinforcements arrived. Ethan spun around. The throne room doors exploded inward again, and loyal Valentari soldiers poured through. They crashed into the remaining conspirators with furious precision, cutting them down without mercy. The coup had failed. Lord Vethan tried to flee, but Seraphile caught him with a psionic grip, holding him frozen in place. He stared at her with hatred and disbelief. How? He demanded. We jammed all communications. My husband sent a message before the attack began, Seraphile said coldly. He predicted your assault 3 days ago. The reinforcements were already positioned. Vethan looked at Marcus, who still knelt on the floor, bleeding from a dozen wounds. You knew, Vethan whispered. You knew we would strike. I listened, Marcus said, his voice weak but steady. I watched. Your people underestimated me because I am human. That was your mistake. Vethan's face twisted with rage. What are you? What are you really? Marcus met his eyes without flinching. I am a human. That is all I have ever been. And that is all I ever needed to be. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed. His heart stopped twice during surgery. The voluntary doctors had never seen anyone survive such injuries, let alone fight through them. They worked for 16 hours to save his life, using every technique they knew. Seraphile sat by his bed through all of it, refusing to leave. On the 6th day, Marcus opened his eyes. He looked around the medical chamber, then at his wife, and his first words were, Did I do all right? Seraphile laughed and cried at the same time. She held his hand and felt something she had never expected to feel for this strange human. She felt pride. And beneath the pride, growing slowly like a seed in fertile ground, she felt love. The Queen married a human then witnessed power beyond royal myths. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Burning Pact, and the Empire had never been stronger. Queen Seraphiel ruled with wisdom and grace, her throne secure, her enemies scattered. The political marriage that had seemed like desperation had become something far greater, a true partnership between two peoples, two worlds, two ways of seeing the universe. And Marcus Chen was no longer dismissed or ignored. Voluntary scholars requested interviews, eager to understand human history and psychology. Warriors asked to train beside him, hoping to learn the fighting techniques that had become legendary. Even the ancient noble houses spoke his name with respect. He remained humble through it all, the same calm and curious man who had arrived 5 years ago. But there was something new in his life, now something that filled his eyes with wonder every time he looked at her. Their daughter. Kayla was 3 years old, a miracle of hybrid biology that the doctors had said was impossible. She had her mother's silver skin and her father's dark eyes, and she laughed at everything with pure delight. When Marcus held her, he looked like a man who had finally found what he never knew he was searching for. Seraphiel watched them together in the garden, and her heart swelled with emotions she had no words to describe. But darkness was coming. The Galactic Council convened on the neutral world of Thysera, the same moon where Marcus had proven himself years before. This time, the meeting was not about trade or borders. It was about survival. "The silence is real," declared Ambassador Veth of the Consortium, his mechanical voice carrying through the great hall. "Our probes have confirmed it. A machine intelligence from the void between galaxies, consuming everything in its path. It has already destroyed the Orthani Collective, the Dreaming Kingdoms, and the Far-Reach Federation." Holographic images showed the devastation worlds stripped to bare rock, stars surrounded by massive harvesting structures, entire civilizations reduced to silence. 3 empires in 50 years, Veth continued, each more powerful than our own. Against this enemy, we cannot stand alone. Fear filled the chamber. The elder species of the galaxy, proud and ancient, stared at their doom and saw no hope. The Kreth had no enemy to fight. The Valari had no song to sing. The Valentari had no psionic power to wield against a foe that felt nothing. "We must flee," one delegate suggested. "Find the edges of the galaxy. Hide where the silence cannot reach." "There is nowhere to hide," Warlord Dex growled. "It will come. It will always come. All we can do is die with honor." "Is death truly our only option?" Marcus asked, and the hall fell silent. He stood slowly, his hybrid daughter sleeping in his wife's arms. 5 years had added gray to his hair and lines to his face, but his eyes were still sharp, still bright with that impossible human fire. "I have listened to this council despair for 3 hours, he said. "I have heard the greatest minds of the galaxy declare that resistance is futile, that our only choices are to run or to die. And I must ask, is this truly the best that ancient wisdom can offer?" "You know nothing of this enemy," Ambassador Veth snapped. "The silence has destroyed civilizations older than your species. What could humans possibly offer?" "Stubbornness," Marcus replied simply. He walked to the center of the chamber, where a holographic projector stood waiting. "Let me tell you about humanity," he said. "Let me tell you what you scholars and historians have missed." The projector activated, showing images of Earth, a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable star. 70,000 years ago, a supervolcano erupted and nearly drove our ancestors extinct. We survived, perhaps 10,000 individuals, scattered and starving. But we rebuilt. The image changed to show ice covering the continents. We lived through ice ages that lasted millennia, when glaciers covered half our world. We had no psionic powers to keep warm, no advanced technology to shelter us. We survived on stubbornness and fire. Another image, a massive asteroid impact. 66 million years ago, an asteroid killed nearly every large creature on our planet. Our ancestors were tiny mammals hiding in burrows. They watched the sky burn and the world die, and they kept living. The images shifted faster, now plagues, wars, natural disasters, each one seemingly enough to end a species. We have faced extinction a dozen times, Marcus continued. We have made terrible mistakes, wars that killed millions, weapons that could destroy worlds, pollution that nearly choked our planet to death. We have been our own worst enemies. He paused, letting the weight of those words settle. But we always survived. Not because we were strong or wise or blessed with special gifts. We survived because we refused to accept defeat. Because no matter how dark the night, some human somewhere would light a candle and say, "Not yet." He turned to face the assembled delegates. The silence is vast and terrible. I do not deny this. It has crushed civilizations greater than ours, and it may crush us too. But the question is not whether we can win. The question is whether we will fight. Fight how? Warlord Dex demanded, but his voice held curiosity rather than contempt. Together. Your peoples have technologies and abilities that complement each other. The Kreth have warriors and ships. The Valori have sensors and communications that can pierce any interference. The Velanthari have psionic powers that might affect even machine minds. The Consortium has manufacturing capacity. And humanity. He smiled, and there was something fierce in his expression. Humanity has been fighting impossible wars since we climbed down from the trees. We have tactics, strategies, and a very particular talent for finding weaknesses in superior enemies. Let us share what we know. Let us face this threat as one people, one galaxy, one defiant answer to the darkness. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, Warlord Dex rose from his seat, his massive form casting shadows across the hall. I have seen this human fight, the Warlord rumbled. I have watched him do impossible things through nothing but will and training. If his people are truly like him, then perhaps we have a chance. The Terran Confederacy pledges its fleets and its soldiers, Marcus declared. We will fight beside you not as servants or as children, but as equals. We will stand in the darkness and hold the line. One by one, the other delegates rose. The Kreth pledged their warriors. The Valori pledged their songs. The Velanthari pledged their minds. Even the Mechanical Consortium committed their factories and their cold logic to the cause. For the first time in galactic history, every major power united against a common threat. That night, Sir Raphael stood on the palace balcony with Marcus, watching the combined fleets launch toward the distant darkness. Terran vessels flew alongside Velanthari cruisers, Kreth warships, and Valori light singers, a tapestry of civilizations moving as one. Do you truly believe we can win? She asked. Marcus took her hand, his grip warm and steady. I believe we will make them remember us. The silence has crushed civilizations. Yes, but has it ever faced a galaxy that refused to die quietly? Has it ever met humans? He smiled, and she saw in his eyes the same fire that had burned when he stood alone against her enemies, the same determination that had brought him back from death's door. We might lose, he admitted. We might all die in fire and silence. But if we do, we will die fighting. We will die together. And whoever writes the history of this universe will have to note that when the darkness came, we did not run, we charged straight into it with our teeth bared. Kayla stirred in Seraphil's arms, her silver face peaceful in sleep. In her veins ran two bloodlines, Velanthari grace and human fire, ancient wisdom and stubborn hope. She is the future, Sir Raphael whispered. Whatever comes, she represents what we could become together. Yes, Marcus agreed. And that is the power beyond your myths, my love. Not strength, not psionics, not technology or magic or divine blessing. He looked at their daughter, and his eyes shone with unshed tears. Just refusal. Just the simple, stupid, beautiful refusal to surrender. Humans call it hope, and it is the most powerful thing in the universe. Sir Raphael leaned against him, watching the stars. She had married a human expecting a political convenience. She had found something far greater, a partner, a warrior, a father, and a teacher. Through him, she had learned what her ancient people had forgotten long ago. That survival was not about power, it was about will. And the human will burn brighter than any star. The darkness was coming, but for the first time, she believed they might survive it. Because she had witnessed the power beyond royal myths, and it was simply, impossibly, wonderfully human.